Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Executive Scrutiny Board meeting for Tuesday, the 11th of April. Do we have apologies, please? I have Alison Martin. Any more apologies at all? If not, I have no late items. Declarations of interest, please. If there are not, none. Item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of March. You've got those. Move them, thank you, and seconded, thank you very much for that. Forward plan, item 5, you've also got that attached. Moved it from Councillor Kerr, second it, yeah, thanks very much. Thank you. Council Cabinet response to scrutiny recommendations, you've got those attached. Moving on to item 7, Council Cabinet agenda. First item we need to do is item 8, Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund, authorisation to bid for Wave 2.1 funding. Is this yourself, Ian?
Hello, Chair. I was expecting a colleague here. In fact, he's just walked in, Chair.
Sorry?
Our colleague Ian Yeomans is going to talk to this paper, Chair.
Oh, right, Ian. Okay, Ian. Yeah, that's fine. Yes, well done. Okay, so we're on to item 8, Ian. So, Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund authorisation to bid for Wave 2.1 funding. Over to you, Ian. Thank you.
Funding. Any of you that travel through Allington at the moment will notice that there's some work going on to the cast iron houses there. There are 8 that are currently being refurbished. That was as a consequence of us getting what was called Wave 1 funding last year, where we got nearly £1 million to enable us to upgrade the thermal insulation to 80 cast iron houses. They're currently band D and E rated. So as a result of this work, the properties are a lot warmer to live in. They reduce tenants' fuel bills. And any of you that watch Central News will have seen Sean, our director, on there a couple of times, and I think his last appearance showed a couple of tenants quite happy, wearing a lot less clothing and feeling a lot warmer. And you'll notice we've got quite a nice rendered finish with part brick finish, so they do look, and it does improve the street scene. So the plan is to refurbish the remaining 143, which are on both sides of Harvey Road, over a 2-year period. The funding it attracts is about £12,000 a house, as against a refurbishment cost of £21,000. We take the opportunity at the time to replace other aspects of the house. We replace the doors and the windows out of our existing planned window and door programme. And anyway, yes, so that's the bid is through a partnership, a consortium run by Nottingham City Homes, as was the first wave, and sets run quite well. And I think out of the 24 bidders in the first wave, we're one of the 6 that have actually delivered on our programme. So. Thank you
very much for that, Ian. So we've got the recommendations 2.1 and 2.22. Any comments or observations? If there aren't any, thank you very much. We've got the recommendations as they contained there. Thank you very much, Ian, for that. Item 9, Schools Capital Programme, Gamal.
Thank you, Chair. So this report sets out the maintenance allocations provided to Derby City Council for our community and foundation schools. That allocation is £3 million. This report sets out the proposed projects in the various themes and categories. So 4.4 outlines the areas of schemes proposed in terms of boiler replacements, building fabric, structural repairs, Chair, and the table sets out the proposed projects for this summer. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Gamal. You've got the recommendations 2.1 to 2.4, and the reasons behind those on page 3, 3.1 and 3.2. Comments, please, observations. John and then Lucy. John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, please, on the schools devolved formula capital, is that basically the same amount as last year? And if it is, that is obviously represents a real terms cut.
Yes, Chair, it will be in terms of last year's, unless there's been some changes in number of conversions to academies, but that's really a formulaic allocation that the DFE calculates using their methodology. All we do is passport the funding onto those schools.
Thank you, Gamal. Lucy.
Two things, Chair. Firstly, in terms of the reproduction, 9.2 has the climate impact roundel thing, which is illegible. We can't see the numbers or the words on it, but certainly in my rendition of it. And secondly, I continue to be concerned about the way that these are being analysed, because we've got only greens or neutrals, and in the following section, the following report for the SND, we've got a different mix, but a more balanced mix in that there are some amber ones there as well. One of the ones here is listed as waste. Now, clearly when we are re-roofing or redoing a heating system, there will be waste produced, and the waste will have an element to it. So I would expect that to be inherently not green and not grey. And I think we need to be doing some more training on how these can actually be meaningful for people. Because I don't think what we're seeing at the moment is necessarily the best information for us, and we haven't got the background forms that these would have had done, that these would have come from. And one specific on that, which I was going to ask, is we've got some of these jobs are for re-roofing. Now, ideally, if we're re-roofing, I think we should be re-roofing with putting in solar panels to benefit the school and benefit the local economy. And if it's dark green here somewhere, maybe we are doing that, but in which case I think it would be celebrated in the words somewhere. And so therefore I don't think we are. And therefore I hope that it means we are at least structurally ensuring that the roof will be easily upgradable to put PVs on it, particularly if it's a flat roof. And one of these is Little Oak Community School, which has mostly flat roofs. So is that the case? Does that dark green mean that we are preparing our roofs for PVs?
Okay, three major points: the concerns about the analysis of the information, the training needs, and the specific issue regards to the roofing, should it include solar panels. Gamal.
Yeah, Chair, I won't be able to answer all of those. I'll take 9.2 away. That's a fair comment to have a look at why are they all green, and I'll come back to scrutiny on that, if that's okay. In terms of structural checks, in terms of future-proofing solar panels, again, I don't know the technical answer to that. I'll need to take that away. But, Chair, it's always important to note that some of these flat roofs, it may or may not be possible to put and retrofit solar panels on or put the infrastructure in place. But I'll certainly ask the technical questions. But, Chair, to add that the works that will be done in accordance, as I've often said before, within building regulation guidelines.
Thank you, Gamal. Okay, John, do you want to come back in?
Just very quickly, Councillor Kerr's original point, really, it's not worth having the diagram because you can't read it at all. So, you know, it doesn't tell us anything. It's just, you know, it needs to be in English. Thank you.
Gamal?
Chair, I've got a Word version. I can see it clearly in my Word version, so I don't know whether it's to do with PDF, but point noted, because I can see the percentage.
Thanks, Chair. Any suggestion of issues with asbestos or anything in these buildings?
Chair, some of the buildings will have asbestos in them, so asbestos surveys are available for all schools, and those checks and balances will be done prior to doing any work. Chair.
Okay, if there's no more issues with regards to that, I'm going to go to Gamal on that. Moving on to item 10, got to send I-needs transformation program. Just you, Gamal, or...
Unfortunately, Chair, we're struggling with this one because the colleague, I think, that should be presenting this isn't here. What I'm happy to do, Chair, is to try and pick any questions up that colleagues have to take them back to respond. The brief headlines I've had a look through, Chair, in terms of that report, is to try and create additional places over a number of years, and I think there's 64 places in total, and together with a hub and spoke, a model taken forward. But I'm going to struggle to answer a specific question on that, but happy to note, take them back.
Yeah, thank you, Gamal. I'll bring Lucian in a minute. With regard to the the High Needs Transformation Programme. I mean, I made these points that I'm about to make now at that meeting, and there is a concern, I think it's shared across all parties and by officers as well, but it's about what we do now about it. I mean, it's just not justifiable for having these out-of-area placements, and there's a friend of mine who's got a child on the autistic spectrum where it's costing this authority £80,000 a year. It's not right for the child, not right for the family, not right for the local authority. And that's why wherever we can, we should be normalising those young people with special needs, whether it's autism or other issues, and making sure that there is the educational support within existing schools, because later on in life, we want their lives to be given the fullest opportunities to fulfil their potential and not be hived off to some facility which is miles away from Derby. So the sooner that we can start to meet those children's needs within this city, the better, as far as me, my group, and hopefully all the groups in the city are concerned, because it's in everybody's interest for us to actually do that. Lucy.
I was going to ask, Chair, whether Pauline, presumably, who you were expecting, is she expected at this meeting, in which case could we come back to this in case she arrives in 5 minutes?
Is she expected, Gamal?
Chair, I saw an out of office on. She wasn't at a meeting early this morning, so I assume not.
Okay.
Chair, I had a question as well, which is under paragraph 3.2, it talks about this programme as being co-produced with partners. And I was interested to know whether the partners were professional partners or whether they included parental partners and carers, and so how much they were involved as well, and the pupils, the older pupils as well. And my second question was, in 4.3, paragraph 2, it talks about the places moving from moderate learning difficulty to autistic spectrum disorder placements within the existing school. And it comments that this is going to be quite a challenging situation, and I would like to hear more about how that challenge is going to be met.
Gamal, are you able to answer these fully now? I'll come back to
certainly answer 3.2. So 3.2 will have been, in terms of co-productions, is with parents, professionals and schools, either via the SEND board meetings and other co-production meetings. So that will be including young people within that space. In terms of, I think, the other question around MLD to autism spectrum disorder, I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer that one, but I will take that away to try and ask colleagues to come back to yourself.
Thank you, Gamal. If there's no other questions, thanks very much for that. Moving on to item 11. This is the development of a site at Bonsall Avenue, Repton Avenue, known formerly as Warwick House Care Home. Ian, is that yourself? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's my colleague Karen Brearley is going to introduce this report and the next one, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so this report seeks the proposal for the redevelopment of the site at the former Warwick House Care Home. The property has actually now been demolished, and we have got a scheme to deliver 22 new affordable homes. The cost of those will be met through the capital programme and the right to buy receipts. Properties will then be held in stock and managed by Derby Homes. As we know, that there is a huge demand for affordable housing within the city, so these will go some way to helping to address that need. We actually have a mix of one-bedroom houses, two-bedroom houses and a number of four-bedroom houses. That mix of properties has actually been agreed with Housing Options as the highest demand at the moment in the city. We have actually looked at pre-application advice with planners and undertaken all the due diligence that we've been able to. We are aiming for the 22 homes to meet the Future Homes Standard, which addresses the operational carbon emissions from the property. So they will also meet M42, which is an accessibility standard, which is the equivalent of the old Lifetime Homes Standard within building regs. We do have an outline timescale where we are seeking cabinet approval, which is at 4.10, with practical completion and handover in March 2025, and then there is a 12-month defects liability period after that. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Karen. Any questions for Karen at all? Lucy?
I'm not sure it's a question, but I was just going to again highlight the climate implications roundel as being wildly optimistic in my view. It doesn't say anything about the waste that's going to be produced as a result of this. The energy use is likely to go up if people are actually able to have their own homes, rather than, we know that every home, unless it's a zero carbon home, is going to use energy. And probably more because it's heating that space which would previously have been not heated. So I think it's a wildly optimistic roundel, and I just think we need to be doing some more training.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Not moving on to
Okay, thank you. Again, this proposes the redevelopment for affordable housing of the Knoll, which is on Village Street. We again have a scheme to deliver 18 houses on this site. Again, we have a mix of 1, 2, 3 and 4 bedroom properties. The large number of 2 and 4 bedroom properties again is reflecting the need on the housing register at the moment. Again, aiming to achieve future home standard, and again they are M42 accessible. Again, we've got our time scale for planning permission through to practical completion, targeting for June 2025 with a 12-month defects liability period after that. And it will be, the cost will be met again from the existing HRA capital programme and right to buy receipts.
Thank you very much, Karen. Any comments or observation? Lucy?
And I could say the same thing again, but I'm going to actually celebrate the fact that we've got some new affordable housing, both from this one and from Warwick House. And I really appreciate the 4 bedrooms being put into that mix. I think it's good that they're not all 4 bedrooms, although we are desperately short of them, because we do need to scatter them both around the city and build mixed communities as well. But it's just really nice to see these coming forward.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Karen. Nobody else? Moving on to item 13, compulsory acquisition of empty homes. Who's Ian? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this report will be familiar to members. We bring these up, as members will recall, 3 or 4 times a year. In each case of the 4 properties being proposed to be CPO'd, in each case they will have attracted complaints from neighbours, which is why we've got involved. And as members will recall, our typical experience when we get a cabinet authorisation to acquire compulsory a property, only about 50% of those actually go all the way through to a CPO. The mere fact that we've got a cabinet authorisation is usually enough for about 50% of those properties to be brought back into use by their owners, Chair. Happy to take any questions, and the actual addresses, Chair, are in the detailed confidential papers at the end of the agenda.
Thank you very much, Ian. Any comments, observations? Yeah, I've got Matt and then Lucy. Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, it's unrelated, well, it is related to this report, but just want to thank officers for their help with a site that I've raised in this forum several times. Recently, they've done a little bit of intervention work, and hopefully that will be very positive in my ward of Micklehove. So thank you very much for that. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Okay, Lucy.
My point is probably similar in that there seem to be a lot more properties standing empty and some of them getting increasingly dilapidated, which we're not seeing transferred through into this route and moving forward. Is this capacity within the team to be able to pick up more homes? Should we be passing them forward, or do you think you know them all already?
Ian?
Thank you, Chair. The team has declined in capacity over the last year as a result of the savings the council needs to take. But we are always very happy to take referrals from members or indeed members of the public. So if there are members or members of the public who are concerned about an empty home, by all means do please pass them through to myself or the team, and we'll be happy to look at them. Hopefully they are all on our records, but inevitably there are a small number that we're not aware of, and it's important that we do intervene, Chair.
Thank you, Ian. There's no more comments, then thank you for that. So moving on to item 14, which I believe is Tony, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. That's fine. Thank you, Chair. So the Council received D2 funding to create a grant scheme to support and develop vacant places in the city centre for creative and maker businesses. This funding is currently held in a reserve budget. Part of the funding has supported the development of a feasibility study into the concept that has informed this report. So the purpose of the report is to recommend approving the use of this reserve, so 300k for 2 strands of activity. So the first strand of activity would be for £100,000, and that would create a pot for grants to landlords and property owners for refurbishment costs associated with converting city centre vacant property into units from which creative and maker businesses can operate. And then there'll be a further pot of £170,000, which would be for grants for tenants and leaseholders to support fit-out and refurbishment costs of city centre properties for creative and maker businesses where they would be the tenants. And then alongside that would be a remaining 30k, which would be support the revenue costs for administrating the grant funding. The report also recommends some delegated approvals, which are set out in 2.2 to avoid any delay in processing the grants, subject to the appropriate due diligence, including, for example, business planning and match funding being in place. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thanks, Mark. I mean, I certainly welcome this initiative, and I was talking to Senior Officer in Planning only half an hour ago. I think many of us have been concerned over the years about our towns and cities up and down this country dying. They were starting to be on the wane before COVID, but post-COVID, you don't have to look at this building. 3/4 of this building's empty, and it's the same with a lot of commercial properties. People seem to be fleeing from the towns and cities, and we need to desperately reinvent our towns and cities. This goes some way to doing that, and I think certainly we'll welcome this, I do, and I'm sure hopefully colleagues will as well. I do believe that nationally, whatever government is in control of the next year or 2 or 3 or 4, this needs to have a government minister actually involved, because we need joined up thinking, both in terms of investment as well. We've seen what's happened with the likes of Manchester and Birmingham when there's been a mayor in control, but we need to make sure that towns and cities the size of Stoke, Derby, Leicester also have the opportunity to reinvent themselves. Because unless we do reinvent our towns and cities, they will die, and I think we'll all pay the price. We need to encourage inner city living, we need to make sure it's not just a ghetto, though, to attract all sorts. It's got to be lively, it's got to be vibrant, it's got to be attractive enough for whether it's singles or families to live in. And so that's beholden on us, but councils on their own cannot do it. And that's why we need to make sure, through all our contacts politically, we make sure that nationally this is taken seriously. So, yes, I welcome it, and I think we need to do a hell of a lot more. Any comments or observations, please? Matt, and then Lucy.
I think you're right, Chair, and I think it's one of these issues, a little like social care, really, where there needs to be cross-party work on this. I think we all need to work together. You know, we're all citizens of this city. We want it to succeed. And moving forward, whoever's in control of the council, and as you say, whoever's in government, I would hope at a local level that we can really take stock in the next 4 years after the all-out elections and work together, cross-party, for the benefit of the city on this issue and several others that we agree on. May have nuances within that we don't agree on, but I think we can all agree that we wish to see the city aspire and succeed. So yeah, I'd echo your words, and hopefully whoever fills this chamber in the next few months can work together on it.
I welcome that, Matt, genuinely, because I think this rises above party politics. It's important to all the people of Derby, irrespective of whether you vote Conservative, Labour, Liberal, Green, irrespective of whether you live in Alveston, Arboretum or Alistair or Darley. And so I welcome that, because there are a lot of things we need to recognise that party politics can't or shouldn't be involved in it, and we do need to work together to make sure that it achieves what we all wish it to achieve. So thanks for that, Matt. Lucy.
And I was going to talk about something more practically, which is where we've got these groups, these small businesses setting up, are we seeking to be able to minimise their setup costs by having shared facilities, for example, for having a single kiln that different potters are able to use, or people who are doing different sort of kiln probably for doing glass creative stuff and so on, if they're big capital items.
Mike?
Thank you. Yes, where possible, we're looking to try and cluster creative businesses of type within space, so that there can be reduced costs in terms of building management, but also in terms of shared facilities. But I think it's also that aspiration to cluster activity encourages individuals and groups to look beyond what they do in the day-to-day, and kind of think about the opportunities that they can bring to the city centre in terms of different types of events and activities. So adding to the vibrancy beyond the space that they're operating out of. So absolutely looking to cluster activity and share resources within that. And we're also, we've got a bid into the Shared Prosperity Fund business support programme to provide that startup business support and business coaching to help those businesses be sustainable, so that we're not just kind of giving some money to a fledgling business that fails after a short period of time, but giving them that support to make them as sustainable as possible.
Thanks, Mike. There's nobody else on that one. We'll move on to item 15, Rough Sleepers Initiative Targeted Funding Application. Who's that going to be? Going to all jump at once?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chair. I don't think we've got an officer here who's able to.
Are you
deal
able to
with
ad lib?
Yes, I think I can.
Okay, thank you.
I can certainly try my best with any questions, Chair, arising from the paper.
Any questions at all on this one? If there's not, then we'll just pass over that. Okay, thank you very much for that. So, item 15. Have we got an item? Yeah, was item 15. So, item 16, exclusion of the press and public. Stephen, are people in favour of that proposal, so we can look at the confidential items? Anybody against? No? Okay, that's passed. We can shut down the